but you're starting on a D flat.
A flat.
Lydian.
Lydian, here's how. So if this would be, we're thinking A flat, then in A flat, that
D
would
is
Is fa.
be
scale
fa,
degree.
would be the fourth scale degree.
Fa.
On the white keys, if we're thinking, white keys are key of C, if we're thinking key of C, fa to fa would be the Lydian. So if this is fa with that key signature, then we'd say this is the key of D flat Lydian. How about this?
So.
Mixolydian.
So take it.
Mixolydian.
Mixolydian. So we call this demixolydian. This is the part nobody else teaches. So you find people who are real good at modes if you're white keyed, but you look at something that has got 4 flats in it and starts on a B flat, and they're like, you say, B flat, do, just a second. So we're saying that's do. It's the key of A.
A Dorian.
A Dorian. So the memory aid tells you that Dorian is array to ray by thinking of the key of C, white keys, key of C. And once the memory aid tells you Dorian is ray to ray, and you see you're in the key of G, and it starts on a note that would be ray in G, that tells you you're in Dorian. Now, that'll tell you what key. How do you know you're really in a mode and not in G major? Because the feeling of do in A Dorian, the feeling that the piece is over is the note A. So that always wins. If it sounds like the piece is finished there, then that's tonic. And so if the tonic happens to look like a chord built on re, then you're in the Dorian mode.
And what if it doesn't start with the tonic pitch or the root? I don't even know what to say. Call it with the
Do.
With do.
Okay, as long as it ends there.
Okay.
It doesn't have
Well,
to
how do you
end.
know you're in a mode if it doesn't start on that do?
It's harder to tell. But the same thing, I don't know if you remember the trouble you had when we first got to major melodies that didn't start on do.
Oh.
You're saying, oh wait, the anacrusis. We're like, well, it doesn't start on do. But you can have a pickup, so do, like that. You could do that in a mode also. But you wouldn't want to end on something. You'd want to end on do. That's what all the gravity pulls toward a do. So Beethoven wrote a string quartet that's called the Lydian Quartet. And it had 4 flats in the key signature. So what note was do?
Four flats, right?
4 flats in the key signature. What
A
note
flat.
was do if it was
A
Lydian?
flat.
You're not giving us enough information. Right? 4 classes of key signature.
And it was Lydian.
Oh, and it was Lydian.
My brain hurts.
Yeah.
Mine too.
I can't
Right, for
think
the
backwards.
He's giving us-
It's like you turned around too fast. Your brain is facing the other way. Yes.
Wait, so 4 flats, which is A flat major,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go up.
Oh yes.
Yes.
But
It's
You
not
go
that
up
way.
4. That's right. You go up 4.
well,
B
right
flat.
away in the key of
It's
C.
on the board.
So 4 flats. So if it's Lydian, then you go over here. Okay, Lydian is fa to fa. So you just ask yourself, in A flat major, what would fa be? It would be D flat.
flat.
Therefore, in that key signature, D flat would be D flat Lydian. So Beethoven wrote a string quartet. It's got 4 flats in the key signature, but it ends on an F D flat major triad. And the musicologists say, well, it sounds like it's over. Well, then it's Lydian. Now, the only other mode that we didn't do much with was Locrian. Locrian is a artificial mode. I mean, it's there on the white keys, but the tonic triad is diminished. So how could you ever end your piece? If the harmony built on Do is diminished, how will the piece ever sound finished? It won't. So that's why it's a kind of a paradox in itself. Now, a couple of composers have tried to make pieces in the Locrian. One of the most interesting was Paul Hindemith. He was the guy who in the 1930s everybody thought was the new Beethoven, and then later they went, what was I thinking? But he wrote a piece of music called Ludus Tonalis, in which he tried to recreate Bach's Well-Tempered Clavier, where Bach wrote a prelude and a fugue in every major minor key. Hindemith wrote a prelude and a fugue in every mode, including the Locrian. Now, I thought his idea for ending the piece was pretty good. So I didn't like the piece, but he was trying to write it in Locrian mode, and that's an artificial mode. So what he did was, normally if you're in Locrian, your final harmony is diminished. So you see it doesn't sound over. So what he did was he said, we have a thing called a Picardy third, where we're in a minor key and in a major triad. So why couldn't I be in Locrian? So I thought that was a nice thing for the end, although, like I say, I didn't care for it.
It sounds like, those movies at the very end where you can't figure out what's happening, and then they come up with this thing that fits perfect. That's what
This
that
is
sounds like.
used in slasher movies and stuff, because
Really?
it's got this uncomfortable feeling.
Well, no, I meant the idea that when you did that, it didn't fit at all with what you were doing before.
Right. It just
You're
all of a
sitting,
sudden-
you're sitting there in a movie and you keep thinking, how are they going to tie this together
And
in
they
the
don't.
last 10 seconds?
Curse them.
Well, they tie it together, but it's like cheating. You know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's kind of like
It's like a reverse change of mode.
Yeah, it didn't sound.
It was just a dream.
Yeah. Yes.
I want to know what the numbers of Lost meant. I don't care if they were in purgatory. I want to know what the numbers meant. Another more modern composer was Frank Zappa. He realized that mode was really odd. So he wrote a piece and named the album Jazz from Hell. And what he did was he improvised on the Locrian mode. And so what a perfect title for something where you have improvisation in Locrian. And jazz players actually use the Locrian mode to harmonize a diminished triad. It's always very difficult to do a major or minor against a diminished triad, especially if fully diminished. But the Locrian has that sound that kind of fits. But those are the only examples I can give of that. And there we have modes. Any questions about modes?
Is this it? No more
Pretty much. I can't really do much more without going into modal theory.
We're not gonna get tested
And
on
then we need another semester or two. Have a great day.
I'll stick around for another semester. I'm ready to have these.
I think I told you when I was overseas, I was at University of Maryland Asian Division. We had to use textbooks written by University of Maryland staff. If they wrote a textbook, we had to use it. And this guy wrote a music theory harmony textbook. And he was crazy about modes. He had like 3 chapters on modes. And he had assigned spelling this mode and harmonizing it. And I'm like, 0.0001% of music is modal. And the guy's got 1/4 of the textbook doing drills on modes. I mean, he must be a church organist or something. I never heard that.
Well, one of my first guitar teachers, he said, 6 months, putting the modes in my head. Never,
Well, now, for
never
you-
once taught me a scale.
Oh, just modes.
Just modes, only modes. Up and down the neck.
And there's an infinitesimal amount of modes. Right?
What?
That was for you, Tim. An infinitesimal. Tiny, tiny,
Oh,
I have the
great.
I I
One word a
decided
day.
to harmonize